skill should not be measured by how many clicks are in a man's game, but rather the amount of strategy in a man's brain. Unfortunately, this is Clickcraft. You aren't playing Civilization, a turn-based game. I think you are confused, sir. Not going to say your name, but
well, I mean, it's just as
everyone...
much Clickcraft as it is Scoutcraft. So that's
yeah, it's all the same. The skill, the strategy, the clicking, it's all the same. You have to be able to click to do the strategies. So whatever.
Yeah, and the auto match system is meant to be so that you're 50-50. You're supposed to be playing players that are, you know, a little bit better than you or a little bit worse than you according to the matchmaker. So you're going to get a challenge, and the auto match system kind of will sort that out. So skill is not really an issue. Like, if you guys know what I mean by that, like, does that make sense?
No, absolutely. I would definitely say I'm in agreement with that. You get pushed towards that 50% win-loss ratio, and that's just how it plays out. So
you're not going to play Hydra when you're in bronze. So you're playing players relative to your own skill is how the system is supposed to work. You know, so anyways.
All right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up our main topics for today. Moving on to our final segment. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is taking questions from you guys. You can send us questions on any of our individual YouTube pages or our Twitters or our tweets or our Tumblrs or however you want to get in contact with us. Just leave a little message that's stating it's for the podcast, and we'll try to answer a few of those questions every week. So we do have a few questions today from Cheshire. And starting off, we're going to look at this first question here. What do we have? Cheshire asks, I hear a lot of talk about mechanics being more important than build order for low-ranked players. Do you agree? And what mechanics should a bronze player prioritize? So let's start off with you, Bobby. What do you think about that? What mechanics should bronze players be focusing on? And is it more important than having a specific build order? Or do they kind of go hand in hand?
I definitely think they go hand in hand. It was kind of a little bit of what I said earlier. Like, how do you have good mechanics without having a good build order? It feels like you really can't do one without the other. But I understand how it can be a little bit difficult for players to kind of discover that build order that allows their mechanics to shine. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you watch channels like, you know, mine and Vitensby's and Forces, is because to learn those build orders to fit around your mechanics.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
No, I'm done. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that to add on to that. I mean, that's 100% true. They go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Now, with that said, obviously mechanics are very important. And to answer the second part of the question, what do you think? What do you think about, you know, the mechanics, and what are the most important mechanics for you, David? What do you feel like that bronze player should be focusing on?
We should focus on. I know it's not really a mechanic, but. You should focus on playing the game and play the game as much as possible, because the only way you're going to get better is by playing the game. So first and foremost, you got to keep playing. So, you know, you're not going to be the best gamer in the world on the first day into Starcraft. So don't give up on stuff. Mechanics, I mean, getting used to your hotkeys is important. Not necessarily your control groups right off the bat. I would say hotkeys are definitely more important. You know, just getting used to how do I build stuff? How do I spawn my drones? How do I build my SCVs? Start with the basics, because then you can pick up the control groups and figure out what works best for you. Just because Control 4 works best for this pro player doesn't mean it's the best thing for you. Some people, like the little one, put all their hatches in Control Group 1. And I know people that get flamed for doing that, but if the little one's doing it, then what's up with that, guys? So it's whatever is best for you. So working on those fundamentals, and then of course figuring out like how to macro, how to keep your money down, and then moving into, you know, the micromanagement aspect. Once you get the 1A down, you know, then you want to play around with, you know, your units. Well, hey, if I move my Marines back after I use a stim and I kite the Zerglings, I don't take any damage. So micro and your overall mechanics, you know, the macro, it goes hand in hand, and just keep practicing. You'll get better at it. Just keep playing the game. There's days I get frustrated going into games and I'm like, I'm not playing my best, but
I gotta echo what he's saying there. It's like, I know, Force, I'm sure you've experienced the same thing with students, is that if you've got a student that basically doesn't know how to use his keyboard to his full potential, because that's really where a lot of those intros into having good mechanics come from is being able to use your keyboard instead of using your mouse to do things. And really, unless you can do that, there's not, you're going to be pretty skill capped. I don't know. Do you get the same feeling from a lot of students you have, where you just have to work on hotkeys and shortcuts and all that stuff first?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say that that's the most prevalent thing that I see is people need to really kind of understand that the more you can divide your actions, the more you can shorten the amount of time it takes to do XYZ thing, the better off you're going to be. Because this is a game of minutes, you know what I mean? It's a game of seconds. It's a game of milliseconds. It's really cut down to the really finite level. So you really have to focus on being able to cut back on the time. For example, I think one of the biggest things is people using those hotkeys, whether or not they're able to use it. I mean, there's just a whole slew of things. You need to make sure you have a strong economy. You need to know when to expand. You have to figure out how to scout and what to take from your scouting. There's just a whole list of things. But the most important things to focus on are trying to cut back the time that it takes for you to do things. Because the more efficiently you can do things, the more effectively you're going to be able to do things. And I guess a premier example is for like a Protoss or a Terran player. If you're constantly making SCVs and you make sure that units are constantly coming out of your production buildings, you're going to be in a much better spot than someone who isn't. If you're making a Marine every chance you get, and then your opponent's only making one every minute and a half, you're at a clear advantage. That's kind of at the most basic level. The most basic way I can really describe it. So that's definitely true. Trying to use your hotkeys and be effective with what you're doing is probably one of the most important things.
And when you're just starting out, a lot of people go into like build order testers or just play against the computer on like easy mode on like a sandbox. When I switched and started playing a little bit of Protoss, started playing a little bit of Terran, I was like, well, let's figure out what the hotkeys are first before I jump into a game. And and I'm playing against other players that I would play against on my main race. So don't be afraid to play around. Go into some 2v2s also. 2v2s is a great way to kind of pick up little things about how the game is played initially, and then you can jump back down to 1v1. It is a totally different game, 2v2 in some regards, but 2v2 isn't as serious as 1v1, so I don't take those games that seriously. So you can kind of do different things and try other things out and just learn the game a little bit with that. So don't be afraid to.
Sorry to cut you off. Have either of you ever tried to actually play using just your mouse? Like, that's how I'll play some of my newbie friends sometimes. I'll be like, alright, I'm just going to use the mouse. And I play so bad. In fact, I really think we should have a 1v1v1. Us three, mouse only. Yeah.
How are we going to prove that, though? I know one of our egos is going to get in the way and start using the keyboard. So,
dude, I'm legit. I won't do it.
I don't even think I could play like that at this point. I mean,
so bad.
My hotkey management is not as good as it could be, but I know every single freaking hotkey in the game right now. So for Zerg at least.
It's a great way to play your newbie friends, though, because you can be trying to play well, but you just can't do it without using any hotkeys. Yeah. It's kind of fun.
So I guess, just that right there kind of solidifies the fact that we're pretty much in agreement that, being comfortable with those hotkeys, aka cutting down on the amount of time it takes for you to do things, shows a general strong improvement as far as like mechanics and what someone should be working on. Moving on to the next question here. We do have a few from Cheshire. His next question is, do you think there's room for casual players in the BattleNet ladder, or is it just an exercise in futility? Let's start off with you, David. What do you think? BattleNet, is that for noobs, or should they just stick to single-player, easy comp stomps?
So, a long time ago, when Zerg was grossly underpowered, before the 2 patches that buffed them to where they are now, I stopped playing for a while because I, like a lot of Zerg players, just got really, really, really frustrated. And then I came back, and I found that everything that I had learned was still there. So in regards to being casual, I think you can play the game as long as you learn it. It's like riding a bike, as long as you enjoy it. That's all. I can go back to play any game, and it could be years ago, and it'll click, Like just the other day with my guitar, I hadn't played
There
it
you
in a
go.
while, picked it up. It's the same thing. You still remember all the chords, you still
Yeah.
remember all the hotkeys. So yeah, you can come back and play casual, and you might drop down a bit because what happens is there's a difference between casual and a difference between coming back 6 months later and a year later, six patches, 3 patches later. Casual would be like maybe 5 games a week, couple games a day at most. I'd say couple games a day isn't even casual, but so yeah, don't come back like 6 months later and expect to play the same game. It'll be different. The meta game, the players are getting better. Stuff always advances. It would be like trying to jump into Warcraft 3 right now and playing against people who've been playing it for 5 years or
Oh my
6 years
God.
or 7
It's a
years.
terrible idea.
Terrible idea, exactly. In fact, I did that with a buddy a long time ago, and we got trashed so hard. I'm like, wow, we used to be good at this game. And like Company Heroes, I went back and played that one for a little bit, but that's totally different game. So yeah, you can be casual and it's fine, but just don't take like a 6 month break from a game, come back and expect to be as good as you were when you left. A month here, a month there. The only time I would say that you could do that is like the day of the new patch that changes everything. That then you can come back and kind of be like,